mind one thought at a time.
Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Changing Minds Online Empowering Women series. How are you doing today, Jessica?
I am doing awesome. It is a beautiful evening here in New York. I am excited for tonight's call. And, Akina, we have a special guest on the call tonight. I know this is one of your sheroes, so why don't you introduce who we are having on our call tonight?
I most definitely will. We have the wonderful, dynamic Cheryl Wood on today, and she is a fearless success coach and vision strategist, and she's going to talk to us today about nurturing your possibilities with tenacity. How are you doing today, Cheryl?
I'm wonderful. I'm excited to be here with you ladies. Already I'm feeling the energy from when we were talking kind of behind the scenes, and I'm super excited to be able to pour into your audience today and to share this platform with you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here.
Welcome.
We're so excited to hear from you tonight, Cheryl.
I am equally as excited, ladies. Let's do this.
All right. Well, tell us about the fearless success coach and vision strategist, Cheryl Wood.
Okay, well, I guess the personal side of me, which I think is always important because our businesses are really an extension of who we are personally. And so the personal side of me, I am a very passionate mother of three. I am a wife. And honestly, I'm just a woman who is fired up about becoming the very best Cheryl I can be, without comparison to anybody else, without competing with anybody else, without permission from anybody else. I just want to walk in my God-given greatness without having to put a lampshade on my light. I want to let my light shine very brightly because I know by doing that, not only do I impact my own life in such a transformational way that I get to experience things I never imagined, but I also become a role model for my three little ones who are looking at me as a representation of what it really means to live and not just exist in life. And then that also becomes an extension on my global impact for women around the world, because all of us, we need some inspiration at some point. Sometimes we're going through stuff in life. It happens. And we just need sort of a beacon of light to look at someone else's story or example or where they've come from, the mess that they've been through and that they've overcome, to say, you know what, if she can do it, I can do it. So it's really my honor to be able to serve in that capacity in the world and in the marketplace for entrepreneurs, but also for my family, for them to understand that discovering who you really are, what your purpose is on this earth, is so critical to really living life and not just existing in it. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, who I really am.
Wonderful, wonderful. So tell us about nurturing our possibilities with tenacity. Where does that come from?
My story? It comes from my story. It comes from my journey especially over the past 5 years. I like that word tenacity because it really means, it has a connotation with being relentless, being unstoppable, being stubborn about going out and getting what you want in this life. And let's face it, nobody's going to hand anything to you. Nobody's going to just give you success on a silver platter and say, here you go, I think you are worthy of it. So we have to be tenacious enough, stubborn enough to go out and fight for what we want and to stick with what it is that we say we want to create in life, even when things don't look up, even when things aren't looking on their brightest side. Even when we have those moments and those times when we're feeling discouraged or we're feeling disappointed, or even those times when we feel broken inside. I mean, as women, we have so much responsibility and so many obligations and so many hats that we wear that sometimes it can deplete us of the energy that we have, right? Especially as business owners, it can deplete everything that we have. And so there are times when you feel broken, or there are very dark times when you're not getting the results that you want in your life or in your business. And those are the times when this word tenacity comes into play, where you've got to be stubborn enough to say, okay, I'm going to keep going regardless. I'm going to keep going even though I don't even feel like it right now. I'm going to keep going even though people are saying I'm not going to get anywhere. I got to keep moving and keep going even though the dream that I'm working so hard for is not manifesting yet. And I've been working for it and busting my butt for years, but it still hasn't manifested. You've got to want it that bad that you are willing to be stubborn, almost like a little kid when they want something. So, for instance, my son, my baby boy, is 6 years old. And he's very stubborn, extremely. I mean, he has this word tenacity down pat. I'm like, how does he know what tenacity means? But he somehow knows that if he keeps asking and keeps pressing and keeps coming back over and over and over again, even when I've said no, even when it looks bleak for him, as though he's not going to get what he wants, he still keeps coming back. If he can become like that, and develop that type of stubbornness and apply it to our businesses and the dreams that we are keeping on a shelf with dust on it, then there is nothing that we can't accomplish. And that's why I say you've got to nurture your possibilities. You know, your possibility is just something that might happen. There are no guarantees. You can work your butt off. You can do everything seemingly right and still not really get the results that you want when you want it. But if you have tenacity, you don't give up until you get the results that you want. So you go into this mode and this mindset of, I'm going to do whatever it takes for however long it takes. And that's what the true definition of nurturing your possibilities with tenacity is all about.
Hey, Cheryl, I love that. And, you know, very open about, in our call. And a lot of people kind of think I'm a little bit crazy, like my friends come to my house and I actually have things just written everywhere. I get those little crayons that write on the wall and on the on the windows. And one of my favorite sayings, and I tend to write this over and over everywhere and every day, is it's not over till I win. And someone asked me the other day, they said, well, how many of your goals have you accomplished? Like, how often when you set a goal or an intention does it come true? And I said, well, all the time. And they're telling me, so you have everything you ever wanted in life. I said, well, I have everything I've wanted up until this point, or I'm in the process of getting everything that I want. And, that's a really, I love living my life in that way, and it sounds like we're really talking about the same thing. But a lot of times people come and say to me, well, what happens when it gets hard? And like you're saying, you need to be tenacious. You need to go after your goals with, a force. And there should be no doubt in your mind you're going to reach it. But what happens when you hit that brick wall? And what would you say to our audience who's saying, but I'm doing it, I'm trying, it's just not working? How do they keep going? How do they grasp that tenacity that you're talking about?
I think, honestly, it's wanting something so bad that you almost get angry about the fact that you don't have it yet. You've got to get a little bit angry. You've got to get a little bit mad. You've got to be a little bit desperate about what's happening right now in this moment that you're simply not content with. That's the only way that, for me, I've developed that type of tenacity. You know why? Because I was sick and tired of being sick and tired of dropping my kids off at 6 o'clock in the morning at before care. I was sick and tired of getting up before the sun came up to get them dressed and to get us all out of the house so that I could drop them off at that early of a time in the morning. I was tired of going off to a corporate job that, yes, it paid the bills, and, yes, I got a paycheck, but I was tired of sitting in a 10-by-10 cubicle with no window where someone else dictated to me how much I could make, when I could get a raise, when I could take a vacation day, when I could take a half day or come in late. I mean, I was tired of feeling so desperate as though I had no real control over my own reality. And I think when you get to that point of being desperate for something else, for something more, for something better, that's when your best creativity comes out. That's when that drive and that conviction of doing something different so that you can get something different, that's where you birth that. Because you're going to do one of two things. When you're in that state of feeling desperate or angry or just fed up, you're either going to stay in that place of being desperate and angry and fed up, and you're going to allow that negative energy to overtake you, and it's going to result in things like being stressed out, depression, all of those negative effects. Or you can use that energy, because that's all it is an energy, And you can say, I intentionally am putting this energy into positive. I'm putting this energy into a solution instead of putting the energy into the problem itself. And that, I think, is one of the biggest mistakes that a lot of people make when they're going through tough times, they're going through struggles. You know, they're like, I've been trying and trying and trying and trying and trying, and I'm not getting what I want. Guess what? Use that energy. Fuel it into creating solutions. And I know that's very hard to do when you're in the mess, when you're going through the stuff, the struggle at that time, but it is the only way out of the struggle. And that's the only way I know how to do it, and that's the thing that has truly catapulted my success, because I focus more on a solution and getting out of the mess and getting out of the desperate state than focusing on how that desperate state is making me feel and the fact that I have no control over it. So I claim control over every tough time, over all those moments where I'm tired of grinding and not getting the result. I claim power over those situations, and that's what you have to do. You claim the power by choosing how you're going to direct your energy.
Wow, that is awesome. Now, when you're claiming that power, you know, for people that are new, what is the first step to claiming that power? How would you start that?
I would say by starting to talk to yourself differently. Now, here's the thing. I don't want anybody on this call to start answering yourself, okay? Talk to yourself, but do not answer yourself because you might have a whole different set of problems after that. But seriously, we do have to talk to ourselves differently. So when I decided that I was at that desperate state where I just was sick and tired and I wanted something different, I started talking to myself differently when I woke up in the morning. Because, see, my conversation prior to that with myself was, oh, God, I don't feel like going to this job. Man, I don't want to go. I want to call. I was so bad today. Like, that was my daily conversation. I had to force myself to get up and go to that job that I really did not, it didn't nurture me. You know, it didn't fulfill my spirit. So I had no passion, no drive to go to that job every day. And so every day I woke up technically on the wrong side of the bed, dreading having to go into that environment that did not allow me to be creative, that did not allow me to create a legacy, that didn't allow me to be a true role model for my kids. You know, that was how I felt. And because of that, I was talking to myself in a negative way. I was talking to myself in a way that kept me stuck in that position. So I decided to try something different. I said, okay, I've been talking to myself this way for a long time and not getting the results that I want. So let me try the opposite of that. Let me talk to myself in a positive way, in an uplifting way, and let's see if what happens with that. So every morning I started waking up, and I kind of had this little routine of these affirmations I would say to myself. And I'd say, oh, Cheryl, you are a magnet for greatness. You are a magnet for wealth and abundance and prosperity. All great things are going to come to you. You are meant to change the world. Now, I'm not going to lie. When I first started saying it, right after I said it, I burst out laughing. I mean, literally, it felt like a joke, like somebody had just told me a joke, because that wasn't the reality that I was living, even though I was telling myself that. So get ready to laugh at yourself a little bit as you start to change your internal dialogue. But here's the crazy thing, is that after I kept saying it, for months, I mean, literally, I was like a robot. I did not wake up any morning without saying it. And months into it, you know, a couple months or so, it's like I actually started to believe it. Like, there's something about your subconscious mind, the more you tell it something, the more it believes that it's truth. So let me give you an example. Have you ever had a friend or met somebody and they're a habitual liar? Like, they lie about everything. If they tell you it's raining outside, you better believe it's 110 degrees outside. Like, they just lie about everything for no reason, right? No good reason. And the thing about it is they lie so much that they start to believe their own lies. And you're kind of looking at them like, are you crazy? It's not that they're crazy. It's that the subconscious mind has taken over, and now the subconscious mind believes all the lies that the person has been telling themselves. It's no different when you switch that and turn on the positive side. if you keep telling yourself positive things, empowering things, uplifting, upbuilding things about who you can become, about your ability to claim power over your reality, about your ability to actually walk in your greatness with what you have and not focus on what you're lacking, your subconscious mind, I promise you, will start to take over, and you will start to wake up and not have to force yourself to say it, because you will say it out of belief. And once you start saying it out of belief, it immediately connects to action or actions that start to produce the result of what you've been saying to yourself all along. So when you start to believe it, now your actions start to align with what needs to take place to help you to get what it is that you're telling yourself. So I started to align myself and with the people and to do the things that would allow me to create wealth, that would allow me to create prosperity, that would allow me to be able to magnetize the right customers to me, that would allow me to be able to walk away from the corporate job and the 10-by-10 cubicle and to build my own empire as a full-time entrepreneur. So it was a process, but it was a process that works. And if those who are listening tonight, if you implement that and you talk to yourself differently, you upgrade your internal dialogue, you will start to then upgrade your actions that support that dialogue, and then you will start to see results.
Yeah, Cheryl, it's amazing that you say that because, I'm like, we're sort of on the same page. And, I also needed to change my internal dialogue. And, I have this big mirror in my room, and it's this life-size mirror. And, I used to cover, like, the majority of it so I only could really see from my chest up because I never liked what I saw in the mirror. And, I shared this funny story kind of last night where I have pet guinea pigs, and I would take my guinea pig, and every night I would walk past this mirror into my living room with the guinea pig, and every night when he passes this mirror, he just hisses at himself. He's like, hiss, 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 and I'm like, Jack, it's yourself. And I'd take him to the mirror, and I'd show him, look, that's you, and he'd say, and he just would hiss at himself. And I kind of realized it dawned upon me is, you know what, I used to do that same thing. And, just like my guinea pig, Jack, he can't recognize his own reflection. We often look in the mirror and we don't see who we really are. And, that was my problem, is my dialogue had to change. I saw someone who was loving, someone who was not worthy, someone who was unattractive, someone who was overweight, someone who was unhealthy, someone who was in poverty. And I needed to see myself the way God saw me. So I put on mine, I got those little markers I was talking about, and I put on my mirror, Lord, please help me to see myself the way that you see me. And I cleared everything out so I could see my entire body every day. And I put these affirmations, and I'm standing in front of that mirror now, and I'll read them to you. It says, I am sexy, I am lean, I am abundant, I am attractive, I am beautiful, I am strong, I am loving, I am worthy. And I stood in front of this mirror, and I had moments of laughter, and I had moments of tears where I just stood there and I didn't believe it or I thought it was funny. And you know something, I stand in front of that mirror now. I will admit, I'll add in a couple of minutes into my routine every morning because I love my time in front of the mirror and I love what I see. But just like my guinea pig, he couldn't recognize who he was. We can't recognize who we are because we are so stuck in our self-doubt, our negative talk, where we're just hissing at ourselves. We're telling ourselves something different that's just not true. And, if we have that image of who we are, we can't be who we're meant to be. We can't live into our purpose if we're clinging on to that negative self-talk and that self-doubt and that self-hatred. We have to let it go. And, you bring up this magnificent point is where you say, you know what, it is time for us to claim our power. If we want to claim our power, we need to first change the way we see ourselves.
Absolutely. I could not agree more. And that example, that illustration that you gave, with the hissing is such a powerful illustration of exactly that's the thing. Sometimes we don't even see ourselves as we really are. And it's so important as we're starting to create that transformation that we give ourselves permission to embrace the new person that we're becoming. Sometimes we're clinging on to the person that we were so much that we don't allow room for that new reflection that we are actually creating, through the process. And so for me, as I was going through my own transformation and starting to claim my own power without even realizing that is what I was doing at the time, I started to get more recognition over time, and people would say different things to me over time as I started to really up-level my success and work that I was putting in my journey. And people would start to refer to me as an expert, and they would say these little words, And for a very long time, Jessica, I felt so uncomfortable when people said those words.
Yes,
out.
girl.
And, you know, when people said I was the expert, or, girl, you know, you're the guru, you're the go-to person, or you're so successful. It took me such a long time to allow that to really resonate in my spirit and not to hide from that. And I thank God that I am finally at that place where when someone acknowledges my expertise and acknowledges me as someone that they view as an inspiration, that I can allow that to sink so deeply into my spirit and my soul, because that's what I've been working so hard to become. I've been working so hard to be able to get to a place where I can feel good about myself, good about the legacy I'm creating, but also be an inspiration and a beacon of light for other people. And so once you're walking into that, once you're actually in that space of becoming that thing, you've got to be willing to evolve and also embrace the evolution of what you are and who you are becoming.
Wow, that is so powerful. Can you tell us about the feeling that you get when you realize that you are in the space that you've claimed?
You know, it's sometimes I can be a little bit of a goofball. So sometimes it's this giddy feeling in addition to a very powerful and confident feeling. You know, it's a combination in addition to a feeling of humility. Because when I think back 5 years ago, I mean, sometimes tears come to my eyes because I really thought that forever I would be sitting behind someone's desk as a legal secretary answering someone else's phone in a 10-by-10 cubicle. I thought that was my destiny. That's what I was going to be, you know. And for me, that wasn't, at the time, it wasn't such a bad thing because, you know, I grew up in the projects of Baltimore City. I mean, I was surrounded in an environment where, you know, we had more, we didn't have a whole lot of success stories. We had more statistics than success stories. So to grow up in an environment where there is a lack of educational resources, where there's a lack of financial resources, to grow up in an environment where crime and violence and drug addiction and teenage pregnancy is the thing that you see every day that you walk out of your door, to think that, you know, I could even get to a place where I was making six figures in corporate America, that kind of was, you know, the pinnacle. Oh, she's made it, you know, to most people in that environment. Oh, she's done good for herself. So to think that I could go beyond that was a stretch for me. It was a stretch to believe that this little brown girl who grew up in the project, who didn't go to college, could have a global voice, to be in front of audiences who have PhDs and master degrees, in front of engineers and technicians and mathematicians. These are some of the platforms that I've had the opportunity to be on. And sometimes it's like I have to pinch myself. But it all comes with such humility that God can take whatever you have. He can take whatever you are working with right now, and he can open doors that you would never be able to open on your own, that you would never, circles you would never be able to get into of your own accord, because he is using you as a vessel and says, I need your voice to be heard. And so to be in this space now where my voice is being heard and it's being acknowledged, and people do look to me and respect me and acknowledge my expertise and acknowledge my journey. I mean, you know, sometimes I just drop to my knees in humility, thanking God for allowing me to get to this place and allowing me, giving me the strength, giving me the endurance and the ability and the stubbornness to keep going even when it seemed easier to give up. So it's a humbling experience. But I've also learned a lot about walking confidently in who I am with what I have. Because sometimes I used to come into the room, you know, especially for among entrepreneurs, and, you know, walk into a room with all of these successful people, and I used to walk into the room with my head held down because I felt like I wasn't enough. Do I really belong here? I was still questioning. You know, I was still looking for validation or permission from someone else to say I was good enough. And so now to walk into a room confidently, not arrogantly, but confidently knowing that I am enough just as I am, and that I will continue to reach my fullest potential because I come from a place of authenticity and from a place of wanting to serve others, and knowing that that will take me farther than any influential connections, than any amount of money, then that's something that, it continues to amaze me. It continues to amaze me. And I hope, honestly, it continues to amaze me because I never want to lose that sense of humility. I never want to get to a place where I feel like I'm better than anybody else, or, I don't ever want to forget the struggle that I've gone through to get to this place. So humility is probably the number one word I would associate the feeling with.
Yeah, that's amazing, Cheryl. And, I hate to say this, but we're almost at 9:30 tonight, and you brought so many wonderful points on there. And, what I love about you is your humble spirit, that that you come here with such a strong ability and such a great message, and yet you do come on your knees and saying, listen, this is what I have to share. And that's what we love about you. We want to thank you so much for joining us tonight on this call, and it was just a pleasure. And if you could just do me a favor and leave our audience tonight with kind of one summary, one thing that you could really hone in on so they go to bed tonight remembering this one thing, what would that be?
I would have to say, give yourself the opportunity to rise to the occasion of becoming the best version of yourself. So many of us stay right where we are. We stay stuck and stagnant because we're so infatuated with comfort. We're not willing to stretch ourselves. We're not willing to do the things that are uncomfortable and unfamiliar and uneasy. We're not willing to take the road that's less traveled and work harder than anyone else. We're not willing to stay in there and hang with it and stick with it even when we're feeling broke, busted, and disgusted, We're so ready to give up so quickly when we don't know what the next blessing is that's waiting for us right around the next corner. So my challenge to everyone who's listening is simply to give yourself the opportunity to rise to the expectation that you can become anyone you want to become. You can become anything you want to become. You have what it takes, but you've got to set the bar high and set it not so high that it's not reachable or achievable, but high enough where you do have to stretch, and sometimes you do doubt, and sometimes you do question, and sometimes you are fearful. You should set the bar high enough where you give yourself the opportunity to rise to the occasion of becoming a person who is more tapped into who you really are destined to be, what your talents and your gifts and your skills and your abilities are, and how those gifts and talents and skills can really impact the world and change your own life.
Yeah, Cheryl, and, I said this on Sunday's call, and I'm going to say it again because I just love it, and I think it's so powerful, And, again, I got this from Facebook, and it says, if you want to be a butterfly, you have to want to fly so much that you're willing to give up being a caterpillar. And, if you want to live into your purpose, if you want to step into your destiny, if you want to claim that power that Cheryl Wood talked about tonight, then you need to give up all of that negative self-talk, self-doubt, lackluster mentality of who you believe you are today. So, Cheryl, thank you so much. Akina, I know if you want to is there anything you want to add before we close our call tonight?
Certainly. If anybody was touched by what you had to say, Cheryl, can you please let them know how they can contact you?
Absolutely. You can connect with me all across the social media platforms at Cheryl Empowers with an S on the end, at Cheryl Empowers. That's on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, even LinkedIn. You can connect with me there. And I encourage people to check out a 2-day conference that I'm hosting coming up, specifically for women in business. If you go to ptioconference.com, that stands for Playtime is Over, because that's my motto for this year. Playtime is over. Don't waste another minute, another second, another hour, or another day creating excuses or allowing distractions to keep you from your greatness. Simply do it right now. So check that out. It's October 31st and November 1st in Arlington, Virginia, ptioconference.com. Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you, Cheryl.
Thank you.
Everyone, have a great night. God bless. Thanks for calling in tonight. We love you, and we'll see you on Sunday on our Changing Minds Online show.
Thank you, everyone. Good night.